I have a very unique job. My job is to create joy. I'm one of the few very lucky that make their living and make a life out of producing flash mobs. Now, you probably didn't even know that that was a job that somebody could have, right? And neither did I, but I realized that a lot of things, when putting together the slide deck, I realized that a lot of things I'd done throughout my life had helped me to prepare me for producing flash mobs. So when I was a kid, I did theater for several years, and a play on many levels is similar to the production level of a flash mob, as I found out. When I was 15, I was one of 6 hosts on a kids' television program on the local NBC affiliate with the name, appropriately, Flash. That was the name of the show. So I guess I should have seen it sort of written in the stars, but no one knew about flash mobs at that time. And so fast forward to the 2000s, I leave my dream job at Microsoft because it was no longer a dream, and I start producing local events. I produced nightclub parties, and in 2007 I had the chance to take over the Pride Festival at the Seattle Center. Just before my 3rd Pride Festival, the world got a shocking piece of news, and that was that Michael Jackson was dead. And this was news that was going to change my life. A few weeks later, as I'm resting up after the Pride Festival, I go online, I'm looking at some videos, and I find a video of this flash mob from Paris. And it's to honor Michael Jackson, it's to beat it. And there was something about this flash mob that sparked something in me that was so powerful. And I don't know what I wanted to do in that moment, but I knew I had to do something. I showed my friends, and they had a similar reaction to it. And so I decided that I was going to do it here in Seattle. So I put out a Facebook invite. I looked on the calendar and seen that Michael Jackson's birthday was at the end of the next month, at the end of August in 2009. So that was going to be the date of the flash mob. And I figured that if it was something that I was passionate about, that other people would also be passionate about it. And so that brings me to the first lesson that I learned from flash mobs. It's just to do what you love. And you've heard this a million times before. But for me, I knew that if I did something that I loved and that I was passionate about, that other people would come to support me. So on the day of the flash mob, as we gathered for rehearsal, we had a few people that showed up at Cal Anderson Park. And then we had a few more people. We found a great Michael Jackson in the form of Bobby Bonsi, this guy that's leading choreography right here. There's me trying to figure out the choreography. And there's the group finally getting the choreography down. There's Bobby and I giving final instructions. Passed out these confidential mob locations and times. And then we went down to Pioneer Square for our first location.
But we are here specifically to rise up and do some Michael Jackson beat it moves down here. But it's just going to be a crowd that is milling around, chatting, doing their thing, and then all of a sudden we're going to break out into choreography. So this is our first flash mob location here.
So that's the very first flash mob location ever that we did, and then we went to the big location of the day, which is the Pike Place Market. This is our video producer, Steve, in his car. He's got all the music in the trunk. We don't have any permission to be at Pike Place right now, mind you. And I'm a rule follower, so this is a little mortifying to me. So he's laying the groundwork, making sure that all the video cameras are on. People know something's about to happen. And then the iconic start of Beat It starts. For music licensing purposes, we won't play it right now, but the dong, dong. And then we all break out into dance. And there ends up being like 250 of us that participated in this flash mob. And it was very cool. It was a moment that I will remember forever, and it was a high that I've never experienced from anything else before in my life. It was a very magical moment, and I knew that it would change my life forever. So when you have a big success like this, what do you do to follow it up? Well, that fall, the TV show Glee premiered, and it was a big phenomenon. And flash mobs were starting to get more attention. So I thought, what if we took Glee and flash mobs and put them together? So that spring, we planned a Glee flash mob, the spring of 2010. And I didn't know how many people would be interested in doing this, which brings me to my next lesson that I learned. And I learned it first in the Michael Jackson flash mob, is to master the art of low expectations. For that first flash mob, I had no idea how many people were going to show up. I would be fine if there was 50 or 60 people showing up. I thought there would be a lot of magic in that. And there happened to be 250. So I was shocked that when we got to the Glee flash mob, that we had 1,000 people show up to join us for our first Glee flash mob. It was pretty awe-inspiring to be part of this group. Now, before, it was the blogs and the people on Facebook that had noticed our flash mob, and now it was the local news and the national press. We were on the homepage for MTV. Perez Hilton did a feature on us. CNN even featured our flash mob. We got attention all around the country. So it's no surprise that we would start to get calls and that people would start to offer money for our services. I mean, it was a surprise at the time, but in retrospect, it totally makes sense. And the first organization that called us was a Swedish hospital. They were celebrating their 100-year anniversary, and they wanted to do a flash mob to help celebrate that. So being an event producer, of course, I'll say yes. If something's interesting, of course, we'll do a flash mob for you. But I'd never done this before on a commercial level. I didn't know how to go about it or what to charge or what questions to ask. But you sort of fake it till you make it. So that's what I did. And since it's Swedish hospital, we chose a song from ABBA, because they're Swedish, Dancing Queen. And we dressed up in nurses' outfits. And my choreographer and I, we wore doctors' jackets. And so we looked like we fit in until we started dancing. And it was a big hit. It was covered on the local news. The video went viral. Big success. All right, so 3 big successes in a row. And that success, when you're learning something new, can't go on forever, right? So that brings me to my next lesson. We got a call from Microsoft. And I love Microsoft, by the way. And I don't mean to associate the word fail and Microsoft in the same sentence. Because actually the next failure was all my responsibility. Being a newbie to producing flash mobs, I couldn't anticipate every step in the process. So they wanted to do a flash mob for the launch of Office 2010. And they wanted to do a flash mob in New York and in Seattle on the same day in June. So this is a pretty big step from where we've come from, right? And but I just say yes to everything that sounds interesting. So I'm like, sure, we can do that, no problem. So I go to New York, and my choreographer, Bobby, stays to produce the Seattle event. And they want us to have branding associated with it, right? I mean, flash mobs are cool for a particular reason. And they become uncool when you start to plaster logos on everybody participating. So we didn't get quite the turnout as we did with our Glee flash mob. We had under 100 in both locations. I'm in New York on this day. This is the Seattle location. The music was great. The choreography was great. And at the end, we hold up product boxes. Oh, sad. But this laid the groundwork for what we had to learn for some mobs down the road. So it was very important that we learned it. My flash mobbers, by the way, they always make the most out of any situation. So they have fun no matter what we do. But this period was not only marked by failure, there was lots of success too. We did a flash mob cover to a magazine. I know, how can you do that? But we got a bunch of people together. We made this beautiful heart, and it was on the cover of a magazine, which is very cool. We were also invited by TLC's What Not to Wear to do a flash mob on their show, which we did. It showed later on in the fall. Fox called us to do a flash mob for National Dance Day for So You Think You Can Dance. There were lots of great opportunities coming through in this period. So then we got a call from the Seahawks, who wanted us to do a flash mob for halftime of one of their shows and for one of their games in September. So the question that I asked myself during this period is, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, in the case of the Seahawks, they said that there was a possibility of it being broadcast live on national TV. So if we embarrassed ourselves, we'd have a fairly large audience to embarrass ourselves in front of. But we took on the challenge. It sounded very exciting, but the devil is always in the details. And as we went along, we realized they didn't want us to rush the field. They want us to go on in an orderly way. So for a mob, of 500 to 1,000 people, how do you do it orderly? And we figured out the only way to do it was with lines. Now, there's some of my flash mobbers here today who probably participated in Stadium Mob. And when I say the word lines, they'll roll their eyes, they'll moan, they realize what a pain lines are to get everybody in the same spot every time. And trust me, as a producer, it was a much bigger pain for me because we had to anticipate every step of the way where people were supposed to be. And even on the final day, there's people that didn't show up. So we had to have contingencies for who would fill those slots. So anyways, we get to game day. And we always have a ruse to start a mob. And this one was, we were referees that were arguing about a play that had happened in the first half. And then, of course, we break out into acrobatics. Our mob comes onto the field. We had about 550 people coming in from each side. There are fancy lines. Oh, the music, by the way, there's a big echo, so you don't even know what beat you're on. It's a total mess. And we experimented with some choreography during this one. This is our domino, which when everyone goes down the ground, it actually looks like a really bad scene from Jonestown. But anyways, the football fans are not necessarily our target demographic. But they probably left to go get their beer. I think I heard a boo or two at the end of that. We actually went back and did another flash mob there with the cast of Hair a couple of months later, and there was a very distinct boo at the end of that one. I don't think that was impressive to them. But we continued on. We did a Janet Jackson flash mob at the end of the year. This is the day after Christmas in 2010. She was coming for her world tour around the United States and around the world, obviously. And she wanted people to pitch for places to do the tour. And so we said, hey, come to Seattle. And so this video went viral. Janet's people noticed it, posted it to her website, and she ended up coming here on her world tour. So I don't know if we had anything to do with it, but you know. Okay, so we get to 2011. So notice the trend. We keep on sort of amping up the level of experiences we're having. So I get a call from Wells Fargo, and they want to do a flash mob in New York to introduce their brand to the New York market. So, of course, I say yes. And we're going back to New York to do this giant flash mob in April. And, well, this is sort of a core lesson for flash mobs in general, is to expect the unexpected. Usually it's for the people that are walking on the street, right? They're like, oh, there's a flash mob going on, right? But as a producer, it was important for me to learn this lesson as well, and most particularly with this mob in New York. So I developed a concept for them that was basically merging Broadway performers with street performers and breakdancers and professional dancers and all that. So we worked on it for months. When we got close to the date of the mob, they switched the location from Grand Central Station, where we're going to have this big round mob, to a narrow strip of concrete in Times Square. Now, I was excited to be in Times Square, but this totally changed the choreography 10 days out. So it had us freaking out a little bit. We had to adapt. The last night on our final rehearsal, I asked the Wells Fargo team to let us have 2 takes the next day as an insurance policy. And they resisted at first, and finally I convinced them of that. And it's a good thing that I did, because the next morning we started the mob. And we have a live performance portion and a recorded performance portion. And this is the live performers. We've got some street performers doing drums. And then our dancers are out there dancing. And then they go into a crouch and get ready for the recorded music to start. And the recorded music does not start. And I look over my audio engineer who's trying to get the generator restarted up, and it's not starting up. And here I am in Times Square with the largest production that I've ever done, totally freaking out. And we're not able to get it on. So the breakdancers come out, and they do their show, and we wrap it up without any more music. So we only have 20 minutes to do the mob before we're completely out of the space. So I call the generator company, have them deliver 2 generators in like the space of 10 minutes, which never happens in New York. We crank, all 3 generators are running at this point. We get it all plugged in. We have 1 shot. We have 10 minutes to be out of that space. Get the dancers out there, and it worked this time. And the breakdancers got to go in the normal order of things. And our star was Shoshana Bean, who was in Wicked on Broadway. And everything went like a dream. So we relaxed, spent the rest of that day editing. My editor actually worked overnight into the next day. and spent much of the next day editing. And then we flew back to Seattle. So that we did the mob on a Thursday, edited on Friday, and went back to Seattle. On Saturday, we had our final rehearsal for our second annual Glee Flash Mob. And on Sunday, we actually performed it. So in the space of 3 days, we had done 2 of our biggest productions ever. And so this was pretty epic for me. There's also a lot of stress, and to sort of lighten the mood, I had my choreographers slushy me at the end of the mob. So amazing. You see all these people out here? They're dancing to Glee, dude. It's amazing. So we continue with the mobs. That summer we did a freeze mob in Pike Place Market. We did a dedication to a Ginny Ruffner sculpture, which was downtown. And it was in July, but it actually rained that day. The main song was Firework by Katy Perry, and I timed it because we was going to be in town for her concert. She's up in those windows right there watching us perform a flash mob to her song. It was pretty amazing. We did one at Halloween, and then we had a flash mob for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And this, you see, the theme was about connection and community, about us all being connected. And it was actually very powerful for me because that's exactly the way that I felt. The flash mob community had become more like a flash mob family. In fact, we called it that. So this was a very special mob for us and for our whole group. So of all these flash mobs, one thing that I've realized is that public dancing is in our DNA. Really, that we've relegated it to dance halls and to clubs. But really, it's something that we've been doing since fire was invented, right? And it should be something out in public. I think that that's why flash mobs, particularly dancing flash mobs, they resonate with people. It's about connection and about performance and about just enjoying time with other people and doing their art. And the nice thing about flash mobs is that anybody can do it, right? We have never turned anybody away. It's just about showing up. This was particularly important for me because I'm sort of a homebody. And you can't flash mob from home, right? You actually have to go out in the world, and this is sort of a metaphor for life. But the flash mob community has become way more than just people that I go dance with. They actually supported me. Recently, when my dog needed a procedure done, this is my dog Ko, they raised a bunch of money for the procedure in the space of a few days. And just that support was so amazing. So they've really become this great community of friends and lovers, and there's been marriages that have come out of the flash mob. I'm sure we've had babies, have we? I'm sure. So finally, what I realized is that we are more than just the sum of our parts. So if one person was just doing a flash mob, like me up here on the stage, that's not that exciting, right? But if the whole front row got up and started dancing, no, you're not going to do it. Okay. Then that would be special. But what about if the whole room broke out to dance? So that'd be really cool. But, we had 1,300 people for our last Glee Flash Mob, and that is creating this exponential joy, which is so powerful. And when you're part of the group that's mobbing, you feel the power of that experience so acutely. And you know that you're spreading that to the people that are watching around you. And when we get to upload the video, we get to share that with people from around the world. And there's something so powerful from that they can feel the joy that we experienced in that moment. And that I felt the first time that I watched that Michael Jackson flash mob video in Paris. And now that it's come full circle, and now I'm able to provide that joy to the world. And I know that flash mobs change people and they inspire people. I know because it's changed me. So thank you very much.